Hello, I'm Sharyl Attkisson. Welcome to Full Measure. As soon as you set a passcode on your Apple iPhone, it sets off a feverish encryption process. If a hacker tries to get data off the memory chips, it just looks like a scrambled mess. But the same feature that's protecting your security is keeping the FBI locked out of any secrets held in a terrorist's iPhone after he killed 14 in California last December. A federal judge has ordered Apple to create software to unlock the iPhone. Apple is fighting the order. Today, we have an extraordinary story that predates the Apple conundrum. In fact, it predates what most understand to be the beginning of widespread surveillance of U.S. citizens after 9/11. In October of 1997, Joseph Nashio was CEO of Qwest Communications, a major phone company out west. One of his vice presidents told him he had an unexpected visitor.
He came in and he said, Joe, we have a general downstairs who wants to meet you, which I thought was pretty surprising because, generals just don't drop by. He was a 3-star.
Who is the general?
His name is classified, believe it or not. Who it was, I'm still not allowed to disclose.
The general was from a U.S. intelligence agency interested in paying Qwest to use its cutting-edge global fiber optics network for classified programs. But to learn more, Nashio first needed a top-secret security clearance.
I had my clearance by January of 1998. We received that contract shortly thereafter, and that led to us working with multiple intelligence agencies.
Nashio's job as CEO of Qwest became steeped in a secretive world of classified meetings and clandestine government contracts. He's still barred from saying exactly what the projects involved.
So you could either put equipment in, you could either monitor, there's a whole bunch of things you can do.
As head of a telecom company, you were meeting with top spy agency people?
Yes. What I'm allowed to say that I worked with 4 clandestine security agencies and senior government officials.
For several years, Nashio says, government requests to monitor and surveil Qwest customers came with proper legal authority and brought Qwest lots of cash.
The telecom companies, they make a lot of money off these contracts when they cooperate with the intel agencies.
But it's all done in a classified way that nobody sees it. So yes, we made money. And again, as a CEO of a public corporation, that's good business besides being patriotic.
Was it hundreds of millions of dollars over the years?
Oh, easily, yes.
The mutually beneficial relationship continued until February 27, 2001, when Nashio says he got an astonishing request at a meeting at the headquarters for the National Security Agency, or NSA.
I fly into Washington. My guys meet me, take me to a SCIF that we have that's in Maryland. A SCIF is one of those rooms that are designed to specs that you can't have eavesdropping on. When I grew up, and we used to watch Maxwell Smart on television, it was the cone of silence thing. I go there, get briefed, and then at the end, which was very surprising, a new request is made of us.
By whom?
By someone across the table. I was supposed to meet with Admiral Hayden that day. He didn't show up at the last minute, which should have put yellow flashing lights in my...
He was head of the NSA at the time.
He was head of the NSA. He was the 3-star head of the NSA, who Bush later appoints to be 4 stars and runs the CIA. So when that request came, I was a little bit surprised. It didn't sound right to me. As a matter of fact, it sounded very wrong to me.
What was the request?
Well, it was a request to do something that, under the law, I didn't believe the foreign intelligence agencies, particularly NSA, were authorized to do unless they had a FISA warrant.
A FISA warrant would come from the secretive Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court and would authorize the NSA to do something that was otherwise illegal for it to do, collect data in the U.S.
And you can't say exactly what they asked.
No, that remains classified. Something was asked. I asked if they had a FISA warrant. They said it wasn't required. I thought that was pretty strange.
If there was no warrant, he says he asked if the White House had given executive authority for the project.
They said they wasn't required.
This was under President Bush.
Yes, this was under President Bush, and this is prior to 9/11. So I said we couldn't do it, and we wouldn't do it.
The 9/11 terrorist attacks are often cited as justification for the government's controversial programs to collect information on Americans without court warrants. But the NSA proposition to Qwest was nearly 7 months before 9/11, according to Nashio.
After that meeting, there were repeated requests over the next several months. And I continued to answer the request by saying, look, show me legal authority and we'll be happy to do it. Okay, but I can't do it without legal authority. You know, I can be sued civilly, but the government can't.
How did you begin to understand that you were becoming odd man out?
I think it was June 5th of 2001, about 4 months later, and I'm sitting next to Dick Clark, and Dick leans over to me and he says, kind of incidental to the purpose of the meeting, Joe, you know that contract that you thought you guys were getting? And he named it. I said, yeah. He says, well, it's going to someone else. And I was a little bit surprised because we had been working on this a long time.
Dick, or Richard Clark, was President Bush's chief counterterrorism advisor. He didn't respond to our request for comment. He's shown here in 2002 giving Nashio a presidential certificate. In this photo, Nashio and other CEOs are shown with Clark being sworn in on the president's National Security Telecommunications Advisory Committee. Nashio says that contract Qwest wasn't getting after all dealt a major blow.
A valuable contract for the government?
Yeah, we're talking in the hundreds of millions. Okay, we're not talking 10 million. We're talking big deal contract. Well, what ends up over the next several months is about 4 or 5 contracts we thought we were going to get, we never got.
Nashio viewed it as reprisal for his refusal to take part in what he viewed as an illegal program.
It was in excess of 500 million that I was counting on that didn't come in that year in 2001 alone.
Nashio left Qwest the following year without mending that fence. Then, 3 years later, in August of 2005, he got a call. The Justice Department was investigating him for insider trading of Qwest stock 4 years earlier. Nashio claims the government was targeting him in retaliation, something the government strongly denies. His defense hinged on telling the jury how his relationship with the spy agencies had gone sour. But there was a catch. It was all classified. Nashio lost his case.
I'm barred under the law from bringing any of it up. I'm barred from the contracts. I'm barred from naming the agencies. I'm barred from naming who I was with. I was even barred from saying the meeting on February 27th happened.
Some of it would later become public. About the time of Nashio's indictment, the government's controversial programs were revealed for the first time.
This is a highly classified program that is crucial to our national security.
The New York Times reported the NSA had been using phone companies to collect private information of U.S. citizens without court warrants.
The NSA specifically targets the communications of everyone. It ingests them by default.
Later, NSA contractor Edward Snowden blew the whistle in this explosive interview with The Guardian. He exposed the Obama administration's vast expansion of data collection.
I, sitting at my desk, certainly had the authorities to wiretap anyone from you or your accountant to a federal judge to even the president if I had a personal email.
It was Snowden's example of a federal judge that hit home with Nashio. By then, he was serving a 4.5-year prison sentence. In a bizarre twist, the judge in Nashio's case, Edward Nottingham, was soon embroiled in scandal, accused of soliciting prostitutes and allegedly asking one to lie to investigators. He resigned and apologized, but wasn't prosecuted. After his dealing with the spy agencies, Nashio wonders if they knew about Nottingham's private scandal. Could that have been held over the judge's head as he ruled for the government against Nashio?
Look, I think the intelligence agencies in that time frame were wiretapping government officials, judges. I mean, they were just monitoring everything.
Government officials call Nashio a convicted felon whose speculation can't be believed. Nottingham firmly denies anyone spoke to him about his personal scandals during Nashio's trial. An appeals panel overturned Nashio's conviction, saying Judge Nottingham erred in a key ruling, but the guilty verdict was upheld on appeal. President Bush's NSA and CIA chief Michael Hayden, a Nashio point of contact back then, didn't respond to our request for comment, but has championed the controversial surveillance.
That everything that the agency has done has been lawful. It's been briefed to the appropriate members of Congress. That the only purpose of the agency's activities is to preserve the security and the liberty of the American people. And I think we've done that.
President Obama also defends the government's mass data collection.
When it comes to telephone calls, nobody is listening to your telephone calls. That's not what this program's about.
My advice to people is put nothing on the internet that you wouldn't take a billboard out on 42nd Street and Broadway and publicize. You have your bank records, your health records, you're looking at porn sites, your illegal dating or whatever you're doing is all known.
By the government.
and by their agents. Now let's remember who the agents are. The agents are the telephone companies, the agents are the banks, the agents are Apple, the agents are Google, the agents are Facebook. They're all involved.
What do you tell Apple if they were to call you and ask you for advice?
I would have said, keep this very quiet and cooperate, because you're going to lose this one in court, and what's going to happen to you when this is all over is for the next 5 years of your life, every federal agency that has some jurisdiction on you is going to be crawling all over Apple. And that's what they do.
Nashio's conviction was overturned on appeal in a decision that found Judge Nottingham made key errors. But the government got the conviction reinstated by a split judges panel. A hearing on the Apple case is scheduled for next month. When we return on Full Measure, the other side of the story, we'll hear from Senator Tom Cotton, an outspoken advocate in the FBI drive to force Apple's decryption.